Take two, folks.
Take
as many as you want.
They're free.
Yes. So
How
we
you
got
doing?
mic stands.
We do.
I have had mine for a long time. It came with this microphone.
Yeah.
That one's new.
I stole it off the back of a truck. No, I
So
didn't.
not new.
Yeah, but it's it's mine now.
Gently used.
It's in my possession, which 9/10 of the law, folks. I'm no Bataro, but means it's mine now.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is Don't Start Me Talkin'. He's Rick Owens.
He's Bennie Williams. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm soaked right now because it's still raining outside.
Yep. Which we just segued away from because then I realized, oh yeah, the level of the video I've got to fix.
Yeah,
And I got to turn on Do Not Disturb because then your phone buzzed.
it did.
So thank you for the reminders, friend.
I'm a popular man. I'm not afraid to say it.
I watched a bunch of movies.
You did.
We talked a little bit about some of them. One of them in particular
Yeah.
came up, and I was trashing it right from the start of watching it, and then you turned around and go, oh, that's my favorite animated film.
It was a good 14 hours of just nonstop shitting on this movie.
I really didn't like it.
That I like, and then he'd be like, he wouldn't text me for an hour or two, but then he'd come right back. I can't believe you fucking love this thing.
I can't believe that's your favorite animated movie. And I said this to you, but even if we stacked, not even CGI, take Pixar, take DreamWorks out,
Yeah.
Ice Age, Shrek, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Don't even think about any of that stuff. Just 2D animation. And your pick is Treasure Planet?
It's a great movie. I loved it. Loved it as a kid. Love it as an adult.
He's wrong.
Haven't watched it in a while.
There's even a character in that movie named Ben, and that wasn't enough to sell me.
That's what you look for in movies. So, oh, this is good. And then Ben.
No, it just helps.
Oh,
It just helps.
yeah.
I watched Muppet Treasure Island, which I had never seen. I was kind of actually let down by that. I didn't hate it. But
Yeah.
There's one good song, and the rest of it I was like, eh. The story's really simple because it's Treasure Island. And then Treasure Planet, I watched right after, and the tonal shift immediately to it being oh, we're doing this story seriously.
Yeah.
That was weird. And then they also threw in all this cutesy Disney stuff like Morph and Ben. And I don't know, it didn't do anything for me. But then it made me want to watch other movies that I hadn't seen. So I watched Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, which was not good. The animation looks like bad puppets. The voice acting is terrible. Story's somewhat interesting, but it didn't really go anywhere. It just kind of pretty much everybody dies in that movie. Spoilers. And then I watched what's it called? The other movie I watched.
Titan.
Bottoms.
Bottoms.
Bottoms, the movie about the lesbian fight club, which was good. And I enjoyed that one much more than I enjoyed any of the 3 movies I watched before it. And then I wanted to watch Titan AE, and I had to wait. It wasn't where I normally get my movies from, so I had to wait until it was. And I went in and I finally got to watch it. I watched halfway last night, and then I watched the rest in the car earlier this morning when I was waiting out in the parking lot for him. And I mixed feelings overall. I'm not a fan of Anastasia, and I'm not really a big fan of All Dogs Go to Heaven and stuff, the Don Bluth movies.
Yeah.
But it was all right, and I think the ending was great, but the rest of the movie was just cookie cutter sci-fi, so it was...
You don't like All Dogs Go to Heaven?
I've seen it twice, and I think it's okay.
A Troll in Central Park?
Never seen it. Secret of the Nim, never seen it. There's a few that I just, for whatever reason, never got around to. Is Don Bluth Who Framed Roger Rabbit as well?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I just watched that the other day, though.
That's a good one.
It's a great one. Just it was, I think it was 1988, and they were able to do all that CGI and everything.
They did a lot of that because they had the technology sort of left over or working at the same time because it's Bob Zemeckis.
Yeah.
And that's right before... I think it's right before Back to the Future. Is it before or after? No, it's after.
It's after. Yeah.
But they had developed technology for Back to the Future 2 where you could film, this moving shot 4 times and then paste it together, and it's the same actor 4 times or whatever.
Yeah.
For the scene where the scenes where Marty sees himself, and then also where it's like old Marty, Marty's daughter, which is also Michael J. Fox, Marty's son, which is also Michael J. Fox. Mm-hmm. They are able to put all 3 people into the frame at the same time. So they used a lot of that stuff along with the animation to make the effects look realistic on the set, and then paste over it with animation, which looks amazing.
Yeah.
And that movie is still incredible. Are you sure? Because I know Christopher Lloyd's the bad guy in that. I think.
Yeah, he is. He's the bad guy who.
The bad tune.
Yeah, he's a bad tune.
Yeah.
Who's just wearing like human skin. When he gets melted at the end with the dip, it just leaves his like a bad like mask of his face and the eyes and everything.
Yeah. Which is hilarious.
Doing some research on the podcast, looking it up so you don't have to.
That's right. And just that and that and this and this and now that and.
So in the meantime, I've got an update. I just got cleared for work.
Nice.
Again, well, it'll
88.
be October the 2nd. I will be back at work.
So actually, I might be wrong about that. I think Who Framed Roger Rabbit created the technology that Back to the Future 2 ended up using, because they're both Bob Zemeckis.
And they ended up using that in Space Jam too later on, right?
Oh yeah,
it's like 6 or 7 years later.
And then the most recent of those movies is the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers movie, which I think was also really great. And yeah, that's great news about you going back to work.
Yeah, I feel
very happy for you.
It's been like you think when you first get out of work, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, this is great, I can do whatever I want. But after like day 5,
yeah,
it starts becoming like monotonous.
Yeah, because there's nothing to do.
There's
as much as people might say, oh, people don't want to work and this and that. Like, yeah. I've been like out of work for a very long time now.
Yeah.
Still looking to get back into work. And there's this mentality that I think permeates everybody around you, where they just go like, oh, you don't want to work and like you're lazy and this and that. Or, in reality, when I had a job that I did every day that I appreciated and I felt appreciated at, which I did have for a time, I was very happy to work because it gave me something to do during the day, and then I had other things to do in my life in the other time, and it never overwhelmed one or the other. But
and it also gives you money.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, yeah, obviously, but I mean, just the satisfaction of working on its own is like it's important.
It's definitely like satisfaction in what you're doing is like so fucking important. And I don't think people have that conversation when they say, people don't want to work anymore. It's like, no. They do. They just don't want to be paid shit and treated like shit the whole time.
Which, unfortunately, is a problem with, like, most places I've worked.
Yeah, it's like...
and I've worked at a lot of different places. Yeah. I worked a bunch of different retail, food service,
Foxy
hotel.
Lady.
Never the Foxy Lady, I wish, but not that lucky.
You got the legs of a dancer.
I do have. I appreciate you saying that because I do have the legs of a dancer.
You do.
The fattest dancer who ever lived. But
one of the P.T. Barnums, like, come see this.
yeah, exactly. I would be in a tent behind like a black velvet curtain, and they're like
behind a hot dog stand.
Look upon the man with the dancer's legs.
Oh!
Open up the thing, and I'm just like the world's fattest man is 2 tents down, so I'm not as big as him.
Yeah.
But like I'm large. I'm this,
Well, you'd be large for like that time.
Yeah.
In like 1904.
Sure.
In the middle of like fucking Frog Bowls, Arkansas.
Yeah. When they didn't have the internet yet.
Yeah.
Anybody could be anything.
You could be anything. Anything you wanted. The American dream was achievable.
I sort of like, I'm glad that I didn't live in a time where it was like the 1950s and you could just trick people.
Yeah.
Like that guy, Frank Abagnale or whatever, the Catch Me If You Can guy. It turns out most of the shit that is in that movie is also just made up.
Yeah, of course.
Like, dude's a con artist. Of course, nothing he says is going to be trustworthy, but it's just funny.
Yeah, we're taking our main source from him.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, for whatever fucking reason.
Spends his whole life lying to people, and you're like, he seems like a trustworthy guy. I don't know. Yeah.
And like Steven Spielberg made that movie.
Hey, where's my wallet?
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, I think that working is just an important thing for like human beings in general.
Yeah.
Because and you know, even if you run the business or you work for the business, it gives you something to do. And it saves you from like sitting in a room all day, which happens when you're unemployed.
Yeah,
sitting in a room all day and just thinking about like, how did I end up in this room? Oh God. And that's
you find yourself sitting in many rooms. In this house, I've sat in many rooms during this time of my injury.
Yes.
And I found myself thinking, man, I'm just sitting in a room.
Right.
This is all I'm doing.
With a needle in your hand.
Needle in my hand, and just. I ain't about it.
Audio slave. Audio slave, by the way. He's not a drug addict.
Yeah.
Just clarifying.
Just audio slave.
Right?
Yes.
Sitting in my room with a needle in my hand.
I think so.
Yeah. It's some like new metal.
So going back to that, I think we can dig into that a little bit more. How far back do you think you could go before your birth date? Like, let's say decades, where you would still feel comfortable living.
I could probably be a 70s kid, and that would be the limit of it. Because I think that my interest in technology and like stuff like that, and also film, I feel like if I were born in the 70s, I would have had a much better chance of doing it in the 80s and the 90s than doing it in the 2010s and the now 2020s.
Oh, you'd be dead.
The boring 20s.
You'd be dead instantly.
Coined by Ben. That's me.
You'd be going back. You'd be like,
oh, it's the 70s. I'm 70s Bennie right now.
Hopping down the street.
More than just like things were happening in the 70s where the cultural landscape it was shifting. Landscape was shifting.
Yeah.
And it's just this time in America where I feel like anybody could literally do anything in the 70s and make decent money at it and figure it all out. There was the gas crunch. There was stuff going out. But I feel like if I were born in the 1970s, I could still do the things I like doing in life.
Yeah.
But just enough that you could sneak in the back of like a club. Just enough that you could, outrun a cop. And if they didn't catch your license plate, that's it. You know what I mean?
You're done.
Like late 80s, early 90s, if I were like 20-ish around that time... Yeah. I think that if I was born in like 70 or 71, I think that would be good. Any earlier, I wouldn't want to be born in the 50s. My parents are born in the 50s, and there's so much stuff that just completely flies past them. But I've met people who, like, in the workforce, 10, 20 years older than me, and they're with it. Like, they understand everything that's going on still. Yeah. It's just a point where there's, like, a cutoff, and then I'm like, I don't know. Like, my uncle was born in 66. That's as far back as I'd want to go.
Yeah. There's definitely a point where, like, because I don't think I'd miss the technology at all, like the phone or anything like that. I would a little bit. Like, the internet is very useful. But
I mean, earlier when we looked that thing up, right?
Yeah.
There are questions that you ask yourself in life that you can immediately answer in the year 2023. That back then, I mean, there are encyclopedias, there are sources, there's people who know things. Go to the
library. And...
You could call anyone on the phone. Anyone. You could just get a phone number and call them, and 1970s, I get, pick up the phone and it's,
hey, is your refrigerator running?
No. I mean, like, you could call like an expert at a university, or you could call you could call anybody and get through.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the phone is seen as this like intrusive thing in our lives that we all hate. I mean, like phone calls.
When I get a phone call, I am immediately angry.
I think a lot of people are usually like they have that mentality. I've always liked one, making phone calls, and two, getting phone calls, because it means like, oh, somebody actually knows I exist.
Oh yeah,
for 5 minutes. Wow.
My thing is, I hear it ringing and I go, what the fuck? Like immediately, what the like?
Yeah, like you couldn't just email.
Just send a text. It's always like
all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, how far back would you go? Do you think? How far back could you go?
Could I go? Huh. I think I could survive, not well, but I could do it as far back as the turn of the century.
You probably could, yeah.
I think, like, although I'd probably be sent to fucking WW1, but, you know.
Yeah.
Are we keeping our knowledge of today and going back like a Biff?
No.
Oh, okay. So we're
Just you
just
with
born.
your general self.
Yeah. Just
Where could that exist? And I think I would still need the technology.
Yeah.
I think that we've come a real long way in the last couple of years, but like the 70s is where all that starts really turning. And also the 70s and the 60s are the time when computing becomes a thing that's more compact
and accessible.
So it's not an entire room, and you start learning about how computers are made at that point. By the time you get to now, you just know everything about computers. And I know people like that who are older, like boomers and Gen X people, who they have this crazy knowledge of computers that I don't even understand, because they were down at the like first level of a motherboard, making it when it was like a new thing, because it was exciting. And then computing power, these companies came in with all this money, poured research and development into it. And I had a scoutmaster once who explained to us that, like, they used to stand sticks of RAM in the motherboard. They used to stand them with the contact end being the shorter end. And one day they figured out that if you turned it on its side and made the contact all the pins on the side of this long, on this RAM stick, that it increased the speed of it like tenfold immediately just by doing that. Like, all of these small incremental things have come together to, like, the Steam Deck, which is a full PC. So, like,
that's cool that he was able to make that sheep that fast. He said RAM. I went off that.
It's what I
get
deal
it like
with.
A ram, like
That's
a
what
sheep.
I fucking deal with all the time.
Like a horoscope.
You hear this?
Like a horoscope, you know, the
just off in his own little world. Doesn't even know that I'm talking right now.
The sheep with the curly horns, you know,
like the one that sat next to the baby Jesus.
Sure, yeah, that one.
Gave him his wool for his blanket warm. You don't remember this?
I don't. I wasn't there, so you know.
It's the Friendly Beasts. You've never heard the Friendly Beasts?
No.
You don't know the Christmas song, The Friendly Beasts?
I don't know the Christmas song, The Friendly Beasts.
Well, you just said one of the lines, so I thought that you did.
No.
Is that lightning?
Could be.
Cool.
And it's misty out there as fuck. Look at that.
It's a terrible day.
New England is haunted as shit, and I love it.
There's a charm to it.
There is, definitely.
There's a real charm to it.
There's something about, like, just walking down a country road in, like, anywhere in New England.
Yeah.
And just knowing that, like, somebody fucking decapitated here.
Yeah, they thought somebody was a vampire here. And,
yeah.
You know, then they buried him alive, and they tried to claw their way out of the grave. There's a lot of cool stuff in Rhode Island.
One of my ancestors is Mercy Brown, the vampire of East Greenwich, right?
Yeah, Mercy Brown's like the famous thing I was just talking about.
Yeah. But I guess, give you Cliff Notes on the story if you don't know it, is Mercy Brown's family got consumption, and they all ended up dying. And this was around the time when the Salem witch trials and everything were going on. So, like, they were superstitious as fuck. So why are you doing that?
Doing what?
Crossing your eyes like that, you buffoon.
I'm not crossing my eyes.
Oh, God damn it, man. This is what I deal with. A stake through my heart would be welcomed.
Well, you want to know the real reason?
Yeah.
Because we're going to do a Halloween episode.
We are.
And I was like, hey.
You want me to save it?
Save it for the fucking Halloween episode.
Save it.
Dumb fuck.
Save it for the Halloween. We're saving it for the Halloween. Talking to our fucking teeth right now.
I got a Letterboxd account.
You did? What is that like?
It sucks. So I started up an account on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Which has kind of reinvigorated my interest in watching movies, because I've been cataloging a lot of them. I've gotten through like 500 ratings and maybe like 6 reviews. I'm not going to go too crazy with the reviews unless it's a movie I feel the need to like defend.
Yeah.
But I wrote one for Network. Network's my favorite movie. I wrote one for Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Truman Show, Bottoms, because I watched that the other day.
Soul Plane.
I've never seen Soul Plane. I wouldn't rank something I haven't seen.
You've never seen Soul Plane? And you
Just
call
the ad.
yourself a movie person?
No, I call myself a film buff, and that's not a film.
Film buff, more
That's a
film.
That's a fucking
unbuff.
movie.
Yeah, that's a movie.
That's a movie.
It's a terrible fucking movie.
That's a moving picture.
Got like who's in that?
Snoop,
Snoop.
Cedric the Entertainer, I think.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah. It's like every black celebrity who was even remotely famous then.
Who's the guy? What's his name? Tom Arnold's in it. Which his story is fucking crazy.
I don't want to hear about this.
You don't?
I didn't know. Because
Well-
one day I'll sit and I'll watch.
Like Tom Arnold's sister, I guess, was like a drug queen pin. So like he just goes like, what the fuck? You okay? Having a fit? Having an unfit, more like, huh?
What?
Nothing. I didn't say anything out of pocket, as the kids say in the local parlance. You know?
This is how I live.
That's how he lives. He calls this living, huh?
Yeah.
Some big truck somewhere just honked in the background.
Honk!
Yeah.
Honk!
Yeah.
Honk!
Oh, God, he's doing it again. He calls it Bennie the Goose. I don't know why. He just starts. It just starts, and then this is why he's unemployed.
It's getting cut.
Something else getting cut tonight.
Yeah, I mean, lately, not a ton has been going on with me, so I don't have a ton of things to, just, like, dredge up.
Well, luckily, we have this big old fucking book that someone wrote down of things we can talk about at any point, huh?
I gotta make a correction from, the podcast where I talked about how sick I was.
Right.
When I got swine flu, my brother Tom came back to the house to stay with me, but I was passed out. So I didn't even remember that he was there. But he was staying with my grandma at the time. He was living at my grandma's house with my mom, and I guess they ferried him back to North Kingstown to take care of me for the weekend. And don't remember it. Don't remember him being there at all. I just slept for 2 days.
Yeah.
And they told him before he got there that I had swine flu. So they knew I had swine flu, or at least they were pretty sure that I got swine flu. But nobody ever told me. Nobody ever told me that, yeah, that's what you had.
Yeah, they just fucking left you in a room and then, you know.
No medication, didn't go to a doctor,
No,
nothing.
no, nothing.
Just sat in a room and you basically almost died.
Just lived it.
Yeah.
Lived the whole experience.
So that was fun, but I had to make that little correction. And, yeah, that's the only correction to make. Yeah.
So I wrote something down. Maybe we can get into it to spark something with us, you know?
No, probably not.
No, it won't.
What is it?
So we're kind of going through it right now. It's been pretty stormy the past couple days, right?
Sure.
Past month really has been like the weekends have been raining every fucking day.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot to do around here. Have you been through any like crazy storms in your life that you're just like fucking?
Well, we already talked about the one where I was on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
There were two. There was the nor'easter of April 2007 we went down through, and then there were cyclones, water spouts happening off the coast as we went back up.
Right.
So that was terrifying. That was the most terrifying storm I've ever been in. Other than that, I've been pretty lucky.
We've had a couple hurricanes here.
Yeah.
In Rhode Island, you know, that hit one hit Narragansett pretty bad.
Sandy?
Yeah, like 10 years ago now,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
I called in, I don't know if it was Dan York or which local radio host it was, whichever one it was, fuck you. I called in during a broadcast because our power had just gone out, and I wasn't connected to the news or anything. My phone was, the only thing working, and I wasn't getting any information. So I called into this radio show that I heard, and I said, hey, can you just, can you give like a status update of what's going on? Because I live in North Kingstown, I don't know what's happening. And the guy just stops and goes, well, turn on the news. It's It's all, they're doing reporting right now. Why would you? And then he just hung up, and he's like, why do people do that? Why do they call in and they ask me to tell them what's going on? And I don't remember who it was, but Dan York or something. After that, I was like, nope. And now all I see is that guy putting up conspiracy theories and everything else on his radio show, and I'm just like...
Just a blood vendetta.
Yeah. But it wasn't so bad that it was like a problem.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, there was flooding in the house, and that made me really scared because we could not fight it off fast enough, and it was bad. Like, if it hadn't stopped raining, it would have gone real bad.
Yeah, you're scared because, God forbid, any water touch your body, let alone soap, which is in the house. So if you're in there with water and soap in the house, God, you know.
Well, you know that I got the brittle skin.
You do. It's odd how, like, flimsy your skin is. It looks like it was put on by, like, a child. Not not by, like, divine, you know, creation. It was like, you know, you were slapped together with what was left. And,
yeah, pretty much.
That's you. That's you.
So storms, I think that for the most part, I was very lucky because every time that a big storm hit, I was in a place that was high enough up that we didn't have any problems. My house, when I was growing up in North Kingstown, was on a hill that we never had any flooding, except for when the washing machine like just started leaking real bad, and then that caused mold, and they had to come in and replace our whole bottom floor.
Yeah.
But big bad storms in Florida were a common thing, so nothing too crazy there. Went down during Irma, which I've talked about on the podcast before, so I saw all the trees downed in South Carolina and Georgia.
When we were in high school, Rhode Island flooded pretty
Oh, yeah.
bad. Like,
Yeah,
was it like 2009, 2010?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that because I also lived on a hill, so we were lucky too.
Right.
But like, we had a pool in the backyard.
It ended. The Rhode Island Mall pretty much never opened up after that.
I guess
the Sims, the suit place, Building 19, that was next to it. I think.
Yeah.
Those are gone now. You know, it's at CarMax. They tore down the whole building.
So there was a rumor going around. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but when the Rhode Island Mall flooded, I guess there was a pet store in there.
Oh no, that was true.
And they weren't able to get the pets out
because I'm pretty sure it happened either in the morning or overnight, and it flooded out and it killed all the pets in there, which was terrible.
I remember going down. I was in North Kingstown, and I was going back to my house during it from my job, and I went down a side street, you know, to get through it because like the main road was iffy, filled with cars, you know, trucks and everything moving like that, and the side street I forgot had a dip in it.
Yeah,
so that's filled with water.
Yeah.
I'm driving in a Ford Explorer or like a big SUV, you know, so I feel pretty, you know, safe going through it. But at the end of this street, I see a semi truck, and I'm like, "What are you doing here, dude?"
Yeah.
Right? Because like normally in those streets, you'll see them all the time. No commercial trucks.
Right.
But this motherfucker had the big 18-wheeler and the cargo on the back going through it. So I cross by him as he's going through, and this huge wave covers my fucking car with like branches and leaves and muddy water and shit. All the shit that's on the ground in North Kingstown.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
But I just remember that, and I was like, dude, like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah. Seriously.
What the fuck? And he's just like, huh? Like,
people around here, I've wanted to take footage while I was driving, or have you take footage while I'm driving, just to, like, capture some of the fucking madness. Because I was going to get a dash cam, but then I'm like, that thing would go off every day. I'd have to create, like, a new server on my computer just to handle, like, get new hard drives and stuff, just to handle how much footage I'd have of crazy drivers.
Yeah.
It's constant. It's all the time.
Every day, all the time. Always.
You'll be driving and you'll see somebody in your rearview mirror and you'll realize, oh, great, they're coming up way faster than me.
Yeah.
They're going to want me to move over. They're going to want to push me aside. So I will anticipate that they're coming up and I'll move way before they even get there. And then they'll come right up behind me or they'll cross in front of me and stop. Doesn't matter what I do. There's no right answer. Everybody is just territorial and shitty.
Yeah.
And all the time.
It's almost like, you know, like cheesy to bring it up.
Yeah.
Here, because it's everyone complains about it so often. It's like
with good reason.
Yeah,
though.
it's good fucking reason that they do it. The roads are terrible. They have like fucking potholes everywhere. We went through a nice neighborhood, like one of the nicer neighborhoods in North Kingstown the other day.
Oh yeah,
And there
potholes
was a
everywhere.
huge pothole in it.
Yeah.
Like this is where like
it was when you take the turn at the Mary Lou's Coffee.
yeah,
And go up that road off of whatever that is, South County Trail.
something like that.
When
yeah.
you go up, we were just trying to turn around. We turned into the first neighborhood. Really nice houses.
like multi-million-dollar houses.
yeah, and just
like,
the whole road torn up.
whole
And
road destroyed.
Doesn't matter where I'm driving. It seems like every road I drive on, I just watch as they deteriorate.
Yeah.
And then, like, they come around in the wintertime and they plow and they scrape the road and they tear up more shit. And then they're just like, oh, well, you know, that's what happens.
Oops.
You know, in Montana, my dad's been out there a few times. My cousins live out there now. When it snows and shit, it's like a fucking operation. They go out, they take care of everything, they salt it beforehand. It's like a well-oiled machine, and the roads are cleared. Up here, it's like, oh, we got to pour salt on the roads, which is because the salt in the air is so heavy, it's going to tear up the concrete in the roads.
Destroy everything. Yeah.
We don't use a material that works with it because, oh, well, every 10 years this company needs to come back through and pour more tar.
Yeah.
It's we do a lot of things in this society to enable people to keep making money at the expense of, like, doing the job right.
Yeah.
And, it, like, God, we got to move away from money. I don't know when that's going to happen or how, but, like, as a society, we got to move away from money because...
Well, you're unemployed, so you've moved away from money already.
This is Don't Start Me Talkin', a podcast.
With two fools.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 That's correct.
That's us.
With
two
correct.
fools. Yes. So let's get to a storm that I went through, because I lived in Tornado Alley for a while.
In Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Or are you talking about Kansas?
Well, Kansas wasn't that bad. You had little
yeah.
dust devils and shit, but like Oklahoma was definitely like one of them. I've been through a couple tornadoes. You know, you're outside, the air gets all staticky, the sky turns like a greenish tint, and you know something's coming. I never got like hit with one, but I knew like enough people who did to know like, oh shit's about to go down. Crazy thunderstorms. Kansas was good for that. Arizona has great fucking thunderstorms in like the monsoon season. Like the whole sky is beautiful. But
Florida was like that with the rain.
Yeah.
There was a relief to walking around in this hot, muggy air and just like trying to breathe, and it's a burden to breathe this air. And then the rain breaks, the air is cool, and you get to see this, unbelievable amount of water.
Right.
Just everywhere. And then once it calms down, it's good.
Yeah.
Like the nights in Florida were my favorite thing about living there. They were wonderful.
All the cocaine.
Yeah. I saw a tornado.
Miami Bennie.
There was a tornado in Rhode Island not too long ago. A couple of them.
Picked up a car and spun it around like a fucking Hot Wheels.
Well, I have a little bit of footage, which I'll cut in right here as I'm talking. And the footage is of a little water spout going right in front of the door. And it's kind of hard to see, but then you see the line go across, and it's like clearly that's what it was. And it knocked over a tree, which I have photos of that I'll put right here. And the tree was enormous. It was like the trunk was the size of this table and just snapped in half.
That's a shame, man.
Fell over, missed the building next to ours. We don't love those people in the other condo complex. Damn. They like complain about the dog and stuff, and it's like, okay, you guys built your condo complex so that if you look off of our deck and you go, there's an echo.
Yeah.
It's an echo chamber. You did that. That's not our fault. And the fact that we have this dog that's this big who barks all the time, also not our fault. He just does. We can't stop him. We've tried. When I have a dog when I'm older, I'm going to look into for like months before I get the dog. How do you train a dog not to bark?
Yeah.
Because I've been to people's houses, met a lot of dogs. A lot of dogs don't bark.
Met a lot of dogs. A lot of dogs. That's how you're going to say it. listen, I want to get a dog, but I've met a lot of dogs. I just want one that doesn't bark anymore, you know? You'll get that, like, that accent that old Rhode Islanders get. Like, oh, you know, everything I don't know.
Well, it turns into this, like, frustration.
Yeah.
But you know, because you don't understand what the dog doesn't have. You know what I mean? That they're trying to tell you or what is going on, but they're just freaking the fuck out. And you're like, dude, you can't be like this.
It's 5:40 a.m. in the morning.
So I understand why they're complaining, but also, like, you know, fuck them.
Yeah, it's their
so the
problem.
the tree fell, and their building's right here, and the tree fell like boom, like right in front of the building, so that it didn't screw it up. Yeah, and missed all the power lines, missed everything. So I think it pulled down one power line, and that was it. So that was kind of like a little miracle. Missed all the cars, everything.
Yeah.
So I did see a tornado very recently, which is strange. And then there was another water spout over Jamestown like 2 weeks later. And every week since then has been like, up tornado watch, or like, up hurricane watch.
Flood warning.
Floods.
You get the little thing on your phone and it fucking scares the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So dumb.
But speaking of trees falling, when I was in Oklahoma as a child, we were living on, I believe it was on base at this point. So we weren't quite in Fort Lawton anymore, but we were off into another place.
Sure.
And we're living in like a one-floor ranch-style house, right? So it's like a longer house, not too big depth-wise, but like a long house, road here, park in the middle. It was great. But we had a big oak tree in the front lawn that was, again, probably the roots at the base were probably around this size of this table, which is pretty big. It was an old tree, right?
Right.
And one day we had a tornado warning, but it ended up being like a tropical storm type of thing.
Yeah.
Downgraded or whatever. But it was like maybe early morning hours, like maybe 4:45 in the morning, something like that, before we're getting up ready for school and shit. And I hear this big fucking crash, right? And again, this house is long this way. So the tree is like right here. And it fell into our house like this. So my sister's and brother's room was right here. My room was on this side. The tree fell in the middle. I remember walking out of my room. Nothing in my room was damaged, anything like that. I remember walking out of my room and like staring over this huge fucking tree at my little sister and be like, "Hey, we should probably tell Dad or something, huh?" You know, like,
Dad, we didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I didn't.
We couldn't have done it. Okay, like before you get mad at us.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It wasn't. Listen.
Couldn't be.
Yeah.
It couldn't be us.
Yeah, because dads wake up when they're startled awake. They always wake up the same, which is angry.
Yeah, just like, oh god,
what the fuck is going on? Fuck, you know, like
yeah,
you know, like. So we ended up getting moved out of there into a trailer for a while the house was being rebuilt, and they took all the trees down and everything like that.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about that was we had like a big forest behind us. And that also got affected. So there's all these uprooted trees. This was the time of like Lord of the Rings. So I was out there with like 2 sticks, like playing with my friends, running up fucking tree trunks. I don't know how I did. Some of these tree trunks were huge and they had fallen at an angle to where like if you ran up them like I did, there was a good 25-foot drop if you slipped.
Yeah.
Right? And these aren't like, you know, climbing shoes. I got like little light up Skechers on, you know? So, you know, just fucking playing out in the woods and shit, all of that. It was fucking crazy. And then, let's see. I saw a transformer explode one time.
I saw a guy ram a car into a transformer, but I never saw one explode.
Oh, dude, it was fucking insane.
Oh, yeah.
So I was living in this shitty apartment in North Kingstown. Probably,
yeah.
That one.
Yeah. The floor in this place was like bowing.
It was bowing in the middle.
Like if you were underneath it, and we found this out because we used to go to the guy downstairs and his slouchy mom to buy drugs. Yeah. And there was a whole thing where the ceiling like came down, and you're like, that's just the floor. It's just the floor falling down.
Bowing down, and like there was horsehair and newspapers for like insulation and everything like that.
Yeah.
In the walls.
For a moment, let's talk about the guy and his slouchy mom.
Yeah.
So, all right, not gonna say the guy's name because I have no idea if he's even in the social circles or anything.
I can't
You'd never
remember
see
it anyway.
It's Phil.
It is Phil.
All right, so we're gonna say his first name. I don't know his last name.
Yeah.
Phil was a guy who sold weed.
Yeah.
I think he sold other stuff, but we bought weed.
We bought weed.
This is, in the before times, 10 years ago-ish.
2012, something like that.
2012, 2013.
Yeah,
something.
yeah, around that.
And so I went and, Rick and I would hang out. I'd come by in my car or whatever. He'd come pick me up in his car from wherever I was living. And we'd go back to his apartment, and then there was this guy downstairs who there's a dealer who lives downstairs, whatever. And so I'm like, most people that you meet who are like that live in like a, pretty scummy apartment. Like you go in, they got a couple of shitty roommates or whatever. This dude lived with his mom, and his mom did not, she was beyond giving a fuck about anything.
It was almost admirable how much she didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one thing I take away from this is, like, I want that level of, like, fucking nonchalant not giving a shit.
Yeah. The son was in the living room of their apartment.
Yeah.
She was in the back room. They had these two little, like, wiener dogs or something. And the son had a girlfriend. And the times I went in there, which I think was twice, the girl was just laying in, like, underwear. Just
Wife
sprawled
beater.
out. Wife beater and underwear.
Titty out.
Yes.
That happened once. Like, that thing where you're trying to talk to somebody, but you're like,
yeah, because it's like a magnet. You're just like,
like you're not gonna.
Are we?
I'm just sitting there like trying to give like cues and shit, like what is it? Grape ape? Yeah, fine, man.
Yeah. But the dude's mom was in the other room with the door open.
Yeah,
didn't give a shit. Like came in. I think that she worked.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say where, but she worked somewhere, and she came back, and she's like taking off the uniform and stuff on the bed. And like didn't give a shit that we were there buying drugs. Didn't give a shit that the
didn't say
girlfriend didn't say a word. And when we were just driving around later, I was like, wow, that dude's got a slouchy mom.
Yeah, and we've used that ever since.
Yeah,
like
the definition of a slouch. The place they were living in was decrepit and falling apart.
It was, yeah.
The guy was a drug dealer. The mom was working a job that was like minimum wage, definitely. Yeah. And they were like just scraping by. And she had just lost any fight she had in her to say to him, hey, this isn't appropriate. Like, I'm your mother. Show me some respect.
Yeah.
That was not there. Like, I've always had that with my parents.
Yeah.
Where there's a moment where they'll stop you from doing, and I do this to my niece sometimes, where I'm like, look, I'm your uncle.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't say those things to me, or you don't treat me that way, because that's mean. That's not a nice thing to do. I'm your uncle. You got to have a little bit of respect. This woman had no drive to do that anymore. No. Knew what she was and was just happy to ignore it.
I remember specifically one time, I don't know if you were in there, but I was sitting there. He's on the couch. He's got like a sheet on the couch, which like A+ for effort, but like it's a couch.
Yeah.
It's like a couch, right?
Yeah.
And his girlfriend's sitting next to him, titty out, and like the mom walks in. And I'm like, oh, hello, nice to meet you. She's like, and like goes into the next room, which is her bedroom, I assume.
Yeah.
Because it was like
it was the living room, bedroom, and kitchen. That was it.
And then like
same as your apartment, except downstairs.
Yeah, a bathroom in the kitchen, which was like the size of a phone booth.
Yeah.
And so she comes in and she leaves the door open to her bedroom. Taking off like her little vest of wherever she worked. She lays down on the bed, just sprawled like this, legs out like this, and the two dogs like come from either side and just encase her and then lay down, and she's like that. And I'm going from like talking to Phil about weed and then like titty out and then her, and I'm just like,
what the fuck is this place?
As a kid with ADHD, it almost felt like. Boogie Nights. When he goes to the drug dealer?
Yeah.
And, like, all this crazy shit is happening, and then you just have to fucking sit there and be like, yeah, so, it's $20, right? And he's like, yeah, man, but try this, man. I just got this. You ever watch this movie, man?
Like the dude who wants to be friends with you, and you just want the weed, and then you're going to leave.
Which I'm not unfriendly. I'll sit there. I'll entertain it. But, like...
to a point.
But, like, when it's your mom sitting there...
Yeah.
And I don't know your mom.
Right. That's the other thing too, because this is like just after college. We're still trying to figure out anything.
Yeah.
And for it to be that situation, you're like where does the boundary of like somebody else's parent come into play in their life versus mine? My parents are really stringent about certain things, and like like I said, the respect stuff. So like, I don't know, but yeah, that dude had a slouchy mom.
Slouchy mom.
The slouchiest. And
that's the name of the episode. Slouchy mom.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess we could continue doing episode names. We're doing the new format, which is we're not picking a topic and just rolling with it, except when we do we're gonna do Halloween.
Like we're gonna do Halloween.
But we'll talk about different things about Halloween as we go through it. But yeah, that dude with the slouchy mom, that was one of the worst drug experiences in my life, drug buying, because it was just so fucking uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it
wasn't bad. Like, you never felt in danger, but it was
Thank God they legalized it, because what a waste of time it's been.
Not kids, but kids in the future. The things we had to do.
Yeah.
To procure. For
no reason, too.
Yeah.
And getting upcharged and everything else by people who are charging, an eighth for $60. Like, just ridiculous. Right? $20 grams.
Yeah. Shit like that.
Just absurd. But, yeah, the culture around here is still catching up with weed. Because the money is everybody's main motivation, and so they've started up a bunch of different dispensaries, and they don't really know what they're doing yet.
Yeah.
Around the country too. It's not just Rhode Island. It's like the whole country needs to kind of get their shit in line, and it has to be like alcohol, where it's just you walk in, you get carded normally. You don't do this fucking we got to scan the ID and make sure and all this other shit.
Yeah.
But because it's still
it's new.
No, because it's still federally on the controlled substances list, Schedule 1. That makes it so that federally it's not a thing that you can do the right way yet.
They have to mind their P's and Q's because, like you said, it's federally. Like locally, it can statewise they can legalize it, but federally,
they're all basing it off of other states that also are not perfect yet. Like Massachusetts made me want to move to Massachusetts because they took all that money, they poured it into schools, they poured it into roads where it should go, and then they had a surplus of money. And the law in Massachusetts is that if you have this surplus of taxpayer dollars, you have to pay it back to the taxpayers. So they all got these checks for a couple $1,000.
God bless them.
That's and Rhode Island, meanwhile, is chugging behind and doing half the sales.
Yeah, because Rhode Island is has always been, to me at least, it copycats Massachusetts. Whatever Boston does, Providence.
Honestly, at this point in the country's history, New England should be one state. Yeah. It's ridiculous that it's not.
It'd be great if it was.
Everybody who comes back with an argument that's like, oh, well, the peoples of New Hampshire and Vermont could never unite. It's like,
what?
They don't care about each other.
Wait 5 years till they die.
Yeah. You can continue to have the regions and the cultural identity of the regions. That's fine. Yeah. But as a government, it should be run out of Boston, and it should all run out of there. And the fact that it doesn't is just stupidity, in my opinion.
Yeah. Because we've got states that are the size of New England.
Yeah.
Texas is bigger, I'm pretty sure.
Right, with bigger populations.
Yeah, bigger populations.
People will point and be like, oh, well, Rhode Island's the most densely populated state. It's like, yeah, because there's,
we're in a tin fucking can here.
Yeah. And then the housing market's terrible.
It is.
But overall, I like what the dispensaries have been doing the last, 4 or 5 years of starting up in Massachusetts and then getting to Rhode Island, and the kind of progression of seeing those roll out has been great. Nova was my first real, I love this place. They have the best edibles. They got all this stuff.
Shout out Nova.
Shout out to Nova Farms. A lot of people don't like them, though. And I started with Northeast Alternatives, but that was too far of a drive into Fall River. And then I ended up at Nova. Zahara opened later. That's right next to Nova. I always liked them. And then I tried to start going to Rhode Island dispensaries, but the first 3 I placed orders at canceled my order outright without telling me. So I haven't been to any of those 3. And then the place around the corner from here, Rise.
Yeah.
That's just convenient. I went in there and pretty decent prices. It was pretty reasonable. And I liked it. It was good quality stuff. And then they opened another Rise over on Bald Hill Road that I haven't checked out yet. But I'm happy that they're expanding, that they're starting to show up.
Even in like Tucson where I was at, they had a good couple of them out there, and they'd be in like an old where like a Spirit Halloween will rent out like a building that's been fucking vacant for years.
Yeah,
like it used to be in Ames or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then they were renting out those places, big fucking business, big sign on the guy with the twirly thing on the street.
Yeah,
throw that guy a few nugs to get him to do whatever you want, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, it's been it's crazy how like in 10 years it's pretty much gone. Like, still got places to go with it, but like it's expanded so much, dude.
Yeah. I think that the key to the success of those businesses is going to be once you can buy like an ounce and it's really not breaking the bank for you.
Yeah.
But it's like regulated and it's all there. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a $75 to $100 ounce. Once we get down to those prices is when the weed market will finally just crack open. And it'll be as common as alcohol. You'll walk into like a Walmart and there'll be swag and stuff.
The cigarette companies will get their fucking dirty fingers in there.
They're waiting. They're waiting until it's
like a pack of cigarettes. You'll have a pack of joints.
Yeah, which I would be more than happy with.
Yeah.
And like they'll start doing like low dose THC so that you can smoke a cigarette wherever you want, and it's not gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
They'll figure all that shit out because once it's in a chemical lab run by the people who did big tobacco, like it'll straight to the moon. But they all have been buying little companies here and there, like expanding their interest into Canada because Canada made it legal federally.
Yeah.
Mexico too, I think. So like those companies, Philip Morris and all those big tobacco companies, they're just like standing by, lying in wait, like hoping that one day they'll be able to put out like a pack of green Marlboros.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that improves because there were people that I used to buy from that I could get an ounce for like a really cheap price.
Yeah,
and once they figure it out and it's not swag, once it's like good quality weed is going for a reasonable price and the taxes kind of level out because it's not as expensive to buy the whole bunch of weed, that'll be when it finally becomes like a part of the American economy.
Yeah.
Which is where it needs to get to.
I wish I was still able to smoke it,
Yeah.
I did for a good couple years there, but like now I just get such anxiety even from like low doses that it's pretty much out the window for me.
Yeah.
But like
I am
crazy.
not as big a smoker as I used to be.
Yeah.
Part of that is just getting older. Like
it's like, dude, like in your early 20s, I'd say it's, fun to sit around all day and just smoke, but like it's really not.
It's not. No, and it's more of a social thing when you're younger anyways, that like, you can sit in a room with a bunch of people and laugh together and smoke a joint or whatever. But then once that experience goes away and it's just you in a room alone with drugs.
Well, once you're in the room with people that you smoke with and then you take the smoke away.
Oh, yeah.
You realize how many of those people aren't your friends or you really have no want to hang out with them.
Right.
And for good reason usually.
That happened with a bunch of people that I knew where I like literally just stopped smoking weed with them or whatever and then they disappeared off the face of the earth.
Because I had a lot of friends that I don't talk to anymore that like made it their whole personality.
Oh, yeah.
Like weed.
Yeah.
Like, they had all the shirts and everything.
That's something that I have always been very averse to is like cannabis culture and like, I like the Grateful Dead as a band. I like their bootlegs and I like, quite a few studio albums and stuff from them. But the culture around the Grateful Dead is like the worst out of every band I've ever seen because it's mostly people who hang around because they want to be a part of the drug culture.
Yeah.
And the drug culture of Grateful Dead kind of died with Jerry. So, like, the band has to endure going to these shows if they still perform, and Bob Weir and stuff, and these people getting loaded in the fucking parking lot and then going crazy during the concert.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, it's, there was a podcast I was listening to where they were talking about the Grateful Dead, and they said, like, I waited so long when I was a kid because I thought that they were like, oh, this is going to be awesome, like Grateful Dead, like, this is metal. And then it's like the boopiest, boppiest,
Fucking.
yeah, like happiest rock and roll, like, and it's like, this is Grateful Dead, like, you know.
It's a pretty metal name for like such a mellow band.
And it's a great band.
Yeah, great band.
Yeah, great stuff going on. Still with the descending tree of members and kids and
Ben and Jerry's Cherry Garcia. Pretty good.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've never liked it. But
Oh well.
I'm like,
Fuck you.
I can't do ice cream with fruit in it.
Yeah.
Just like I can't do food with fruit in it.
I can't do chocolate with fruit in it.
Yeah, like if I bite it and it's orange in the middle, it's, or raspberry. My dad loves raspberry stuff.
Dude.
I hate it. My dad has this tendency to, like, for anything that he makes, if he's like, oh, I'm making a birthday cake for this person, they'd love strawberry shortcake. It's because he loves strawberry shortcake and he wants to make strawberry shortcake, and then he makes it for you and you go, oh, I'm good, I don't want a piece, and it's like your birthday, and he's like, what do you mean? And you're like, I don't like strawberry shortcake.
Yeah.
I don't like strawberries.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of cutting them up and putting them into a delicious angel food cake. Just give me the angel food cake.
Yeah.
And then I'm the jerk. And it's like, dude, what's the right answer here? Because what is going on?
Yeah, I hate when you get a gift like that that's like, you know, the person spent time on it, you know, and you're like, oh, here you go. And you're like, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nothing you can do.
Another ice cream cake.
Yeah. The ice cream cake with the blue icing on it from Carvel, I like that icing. I hate having those cakes.
I hate ice cream cakes with a fucking passion. Just get me a cake or get me ice cream.
Yeah.
I want the two separate.
Every year I have them get me a birthday pie. This year they made me, for my birthday, 2 chocolate cream pies. That's what I asked for.
Nice.
They were so good. And like, they'll get it from Greg's or they'll grab it from Stop and Shop. Doesn't matter where it's from. As long as it is a chocolate cream pie, I'm happy with that. I don't like most cakes.
Yeah.
Most cakes are this airy, sugary mess. You get it into your mouth. It's got all your teeth are falling out because of how disgusting it. Pudding, whipped cream, crust.
That's it.
Simple.
Simple.
It works. It's good. It's delicious.
Baby, be a simple kind of band.
Leonard Skinner job.
Leonard Skinner job. But yeah, I the only good part of an ice cream cake to me is that crunchy chocolate bit that's usually running through most of them, you know?
Yes, no, that's the best part.
That's the best part, and it's the only...
It's only the thinnest layer of the cake.
Because, like you, I don't like icing. I don't like a ton of icing on it.
No.
I'm not like I'm not like one of those dudes who takes the corner piece because it's got all the letters and shit on it.
Yeah, that icing on the ice cream cakes though tastes more like cotton candy icing.
Yeah,
and that's why it's weird.
It doesn't do anything for me.
No, not to say that I hate Carvel ice cream, and not to say that I always hate an ice cream cake, because I don't. I like an ice cream cake from time to time.
No,
but it was every birthday I had, and then there was this other. Oh my god, there was this other cake that they would get from Stop and Shop. It was like you'd go up and you just pick it up and hey, can you write the name on this? It was already made. And it had coconut on the side. Oh. And it was chocolate. And they got it for me like every year for like 4 years in a row. And it was what finally broke me, where I was like, start getting me a pie. I don't want this cake. And it also sparked the I'm allergic to coconuts joke that I do, which is one of my favorite jokes.
It's a good one.
I'll be eating something that clearly has coconut in it. It's covered, it's on the thing. Or it's a cake. Never something that's called coconut something, though. It has to be almost like I was surprised by it. Oh. Like, I got a piece of chocolate cake and there's coconut on it. So whoever I'm with, take a big bite, and they got to be eating the thing, too, at the same time. And I go, that's really good. What's on this? And they go, it's chocolate sprinkles, coconut. I'll go, coconut? I'm allergic to coconut. There's coconut in this? And they go, yeah. And I go, oh, I just had big bites. And everybody at the table for 5 minutes just loses all the color in their face. And they're like, and then you go, no, I'm not allergic to coconut.
That was acting, everyone.
Yeah. And then they get either, man, you had me worried.
You had me there.
Or they go,
it's not funny. My cousin died because of
coconut. I watched somebody die And that's your fault for reminding me
And
of
you're
that.
like, no, you didn't, right?
Yeah,
You
of
didn't,
course
though,
not.
right? You
Yeah.
didn't.
No, but the people always, it's usually the relieved.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the biggest relief in the world to find out that you didn't
fucking
accidentally
asshole.
kill
Yeah.
somebody.
And that's how you tell who your friends
You never do it to the service people.
No.
You don't do it to the people who are serving you your food. That's a dick move. You don't do that.
No, you do it to your friends and family, the people that don't matter.
Yeah.
Fuckers.
Yeah, so we could wrap this up.
Let's wrap it up like a mummy because next we got our Halloween.
Storms.
Storms.
I would say other storms. Other storms. Didn't talk about any snowstorms. We've had quite a few blizzards in Rhode Island.
Yeah. But it never eclipsed that big one the old people talk about, though.
Well, the blizzard of '78 was a big deal because they got stuck on the highway. It came down so fast that people coming home from work were literally stuck.
Trapped in their cars.
So they would turn off their car and get out and walk home, or they'd die in their car because the snow blocked it and they got carbon monoxide poisoning. Some of them froze to death. It was really bad. It was the whole coast, or the whole north part of the coast. And there was a year that I went to Washington, D.C., which was 2015, early 2015, and we had a really bad blizzard then. Yeah. And I was not here for it. I got to see pictures of my old dog Bond and him running through the snow and stuff. I don't know if I have a picture of that. I thought maybe. But it was taller than him.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh my God. I've always liked shoveling snow. I've always liked snowstorms.
I don't mind it.
The quiet of walking around during a snowstorm is one of my favorite sensations on earth.
Just little crunches.
Deafened.
Yeah.
The world deafened.
Yeah.
And you just walk around in this quiet wind. Munch, 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 munch. Go your feet.
To your next crime.
Shh.